The war had ended 2 days ago, but the battlefield still breathed smoke and death. The sky above the burned valley was gray and heavy, and the ground was covered with twisted metal and broken armor. Human soldiers were moving among the ruins, searching for survivors, scavenging weapons, and marking graves. Elias Kane walked slowly through the wreckage, his rifle hanging low, his boots crunched on burnt ash, and the air smelled of metal and blood. He had seen too many bodies, too many faces turned to stone. The war between humans and the Dravari Empire was supposed to bring peace, but it only left silence. He stopped when he heard a faint, strange sound. It was not the wind, not the machines, it was a shallow breath, weak and metallic, coming from beneath a pile of wrecked armor. Elias turned his head, scanning the smoke. His hand tightened on his rifle. He moved closer and pushed away a burned panel. Beneath it lay a creature, tall, silver-skinned, and glowing faintly under the dust. Its armor was cracked open, and strange green liquid dripped from tubes running across its chest. The alien was still alive, barely. Elias froze. His orders were clear. No survivors from the enemy side were to be rescued. The Dravari were too dangerous, too unpredictable. But as he looked at the creature's face, he saw pain, not hate. The alien's eyes flickered open. Glowing faint gold, it tried to speak, but only a broken whisper came out. Human, the voice rasped, dry as sand. Why didn't you finish me? Elias lowered his rifle slowly. Because the war's over, he said quietly, and I'm tired of killing. The alien's chest rose and fell in slow, painful rhythm. You should hate me, it said. My kind destroyed your cities, your people. Elias looked around at the broken battlefield. And yours destroyed mine, he said, so maybe we're even. He looked at the creature again, a Dravari warrior, maybe a commander. He could see the rank symbol still half buried under the armor plate. The alien's body below the chest didn't move at all. It was paralyzed, burnt nerves maybe, or spinal damage. Elias hesitated. He knew what would happen if his commander found out. Humans didn't help their enemies, they shot them. But something deep inside him refused to walk away. He dropped to one knee, took a small water pouch from his belt, and brought it close to the alien's cracked lips. Drink, he said. The alien blinked slowly, its gold eyes watching him with disbelief. You are strange, human soldier, it said softly. We were told your kind kills without mercy. Elias gave a faint smile. Guess I missed that lesson, he said. For a while, there was only the sound of wind moving through the ruins. A piece of metal fell somewhere far off, echoing like a bell. Elias knew he was wasting time. Patrols would soon return to clear the field. He had to decide when to leave the alien to die or carry him out. He looked again at the creature, broken but alive, proud even in pain. Can you move? Elias asked. No, the alien said, its voice trembling. My spine is gone, my body will not obey. Elias sighed. Then I guess I'll move for you, he said. He grabbed a torn blanket from the ground and wrapped it under the alien's body. His muscles strained as he lifted. The armor was heavy, and the heat burned through his gloves. The alien made a weak sound, half protest, half surprise. Why do this? It whispered. Because no one else will, Elias said. And I don't like watching someone die alone. Step by step, he dragged the alien through the ashes. The smoke made his eyes burn, his arms shook, but he kept going. A few human soldiers passed in the distance, but he hid behind the wreckage until they were gone. They reached the edge of the valley where a small cave opened near the rock wall. Elias carried the alien inside and laid him down gently. The cave was cool and dark, a shelter from the patrols and drones. He took out his small flashlight and checked the alien's wounds. The green liquid had slowed, but the metal flesh looked damaged beyond repair. You're lucky to be alive, Elias muttered. Luck, the alien said weakly. Or punishment. Elias didn't answer. He sat down beside him, both of them silent, listening to the hum of distant ships. After a while, the alien spoke again. Human, your name? Elias Kane, he said. The alien nodded slowly. I am Vekar, commander of the 9th Dravari fleet. Elias raised an eyebrow. Commander? Then I really picked the wrong person to save, he said with a dry laugh. Vekar's mouth curved slightly, almost a smile. Or the right one, if you seek trouble. Elias looked at the alien, feeling something strange, not fear, not hate, maybe respect, arrest, he said finally. We'll figure out what to do when the sun rises. Outside, the sky turned from gray to pale orange. Smoke rose like ghosts over the dead battlefield. But in the small cave, a human soldier and a broken alien warrior shared the same silence. Two enemies bound by mercy and far away. In the static of an open radio channel, a human voice crackled through the ruins. All survivors, report your sector. Elias looked at the radio, then at the alien. His heart pounded. He had just broken the biggest rule of war, and the real danger had only begun. Night had fallen over the wasteland, and the wind howled through the broken ships like ghosts crying in pain. Elias sat inside the cave, staring at the dying fire he had built from scorched metal and wire. The light flickered across Vekar's silver face, showing the deep scars that ran along his jaw and neck. The alien commander had not spoken much since sunset. His breathing was shallow, his lower body still frozen in silence. Elias had tried to clean the wounds, but there was little he could do. Human medicine didn't work well on alien biology. Outside, the sky was full of stars, cold, sharp, and endless. Elias looked at them and felt smaller than ever. He had fought for those stars, for the human colonies scattered across them. And yet now he was hiding like a criminal. Vekar's golden eyes opened slowly. You should go, he said weakly. When your people find you here, they will kill you. Elias gave a tired laugh. Yeah, I figured, he said, tossing another broken wire into the fire. But I'm not leaving you to die. You owe me nothing, Vekar said. I am your enemy. Elias looked at him. You're just another soldier like me, he said. Different flag, same lies. For a moment, silence filled the cave. Then Vekar's gaze drifted toward the stars. When I was young, he said, voice trembling, I believed we fought for honor, for empire. But all I see now are graves. Elias nodded slowly. You and me both, he whispered. A sudden sound broke the quiet, the faint hum of an approaching drone. Elias jumped to his feet and turned off the fire. The cave went dark. Only the glow from Vekar's armor faintly lighting the walls. Recon unit, Elias muttered, grabbing his rifle. He peeked outside, and there it was. A small hovering sphere scanning the valley, its red eye sweeping across the ruins. Elias crouched low and held his breath. If the drone found them, a strike team would follow within minutes. He turned to Vekar. You can't move, right? No, Vekar said quietly. If they find me, kill me before they take me. Elias stared at him. Not happening, he whispered. The drone's beam passed near the cave entrance. Elias waited until it drifted away, then stepped into the open. His heart pounded. The drone turned suddenly, locking onto his heat signature. A sharp tone filled the air without thinking. Elias raised his rifle and fired. The first shot missed, the second hit dead center. The drone exploded in a burst of red sparks. But it was too late. The signal had been sent. He ran back inside. We have to move. Vekar blinked slowly. I told you to leave me. Elias grabbed the blanket tied around the alien's shoulders and started dragging him toward the back of the cave. Yeah, well, I don't take orders from glowing people, he said. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. Human troops were coming. Vekar's breathing grew heavier. They will not stop, he said. They will burn this whole place to erase me. Then we better move faster, Elias said, pulling him into a narrow passage behind the cave wall. It led into an old mining tunnel, half collapsed and dark as night. They crawled through the dust, the sound of engines above growing louder. Vekar's body trembled with pain. You risk everything for a dead warrior, he said. Why? Elias didn't answer at first. He stopped, panting, looking at the alien's golden eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Because once, he said, someone risked everything for me. The alien's eyes narrowed. A human? Elias nodded. My commander. He dragged me out of a burning ship. Lost his arm doing it, he said quietly. Said no one deserves to die alone. I guess I learned that from him. They reached a small chamber filled with rusted tools and collapsed beams. Elias set Vekar down gently, both of them breathing hard. The distant thunder of gunships echoed through the tunnel. They're sweeping the area, Elias said. We stay here till dawn. Vekar looked at him. You will be branded a traitor. Maybe, Elias said with a small grin. But at least I'll be a traitor who saved someone worth saving. The alien stared at him for a long time, his gold eyes unreadable. Your people do not understand mercy, he said. That makes you dangerous. Human, Elias laughed softly. Dangerous. I like the sound of that. Vekar's expression softened. You remind me of my brother, he said. He died believing peace could be built between our kinds. Elias looked down. Maybe he wasn't wrong, he said. Maybe we just needed the right fools to try. Hours passed in silence. The night outside grew colder, and the stars above moved slowly across the sky. Elias sat beside the alien, rifle across his lap, listening to the faint hum of approaching ships. He knew he could still run, still hide and pretend he never found the alien. But deep inside, something told him that saving Vakar meant more than his own safety. When dawn finally touched the cave's mouth with pale light, Elias looked at the wounded commander and whispered, "We're not done yet, Vakar." The alien's eyes opened weakly. "Then let us see," he said, "how far your human heart can carry a broken warrior." Outside, the first rays of morning hit the ruined battlefield, and smoke curled up like ghosts of the dead. The war might have ended, but for Elias and Vakar, their real fight had just begun. Morning light crept slowly into the tunnels, cold and pale. Elias opened his eyes to the sound of dripping water echoing somewhere deep in the cave. His body ached from the long night, but his mind was sharper than ever. Above ground, human search drones still circled like vultures, their low hum vibrating through the stone walls. Vakar was awake too, his breathing steadier. Though his body remained still from the waist down, his golden eyes followed Elias as the human packed what little supplies he had: a half-empty canteen, a broken medkit, and a flashlight that flickered every few seconds. "You should have left when you had the chance," Vakar said quietly. "They will come for you now." Elias didn't look up. "They already came," he said. "And I'm still here." "You do not understand," Vakar replied. "When the Dravari War ended, your high command ordered every alien survivor destroyed. Not because we were a threat, but because we knew too much." Elias frowned. "Knew too much about what?" Vakar's eyes dimmed. "About what really happened," he said. "Your leaders didn't end the war through victory. They ended it through a deal." Elias turned sharply. "A deal?" "Yes," Vakar whispered. "A trade of planets' lives and truth." The silence that followed was heavy. Elias stared at the alien, his thoughts racing. He had heard rumors before, whispers that the war's ending was too sudden, too clean, but to hear it confirmed by an alien commander, that was different. Before he could speak again, a faint crackle came from his radio. "Unit Bravo 3, report any sign of the deserter?" Elias froze. His pulse quickened. He turned the device off immediately. "They're getting close," he muttered. Vakar looked at him calmly. "You can still save yourself." Elias shook his head. "Not after what I've seen," he said. "I started this mess when I pulled you from the wreckage. I'll finish it." He moved closer and inspected Vakar's armor again. The metal was fused to the alien's body, burnt into the skin, but there was something strange. A compartment near the shoulder plate, sealed with a red symbol that pulsed faintly. "What's that?" Elias asked. Vakar hesitated. "It is a data crystal," he said slowly. "It holds every battle command, every transmission between your generals and mine." Elias's breath caught. "You're saying it's proof?" "Yes," Vakar said. "Proof that the war was built on lies." For a long moment, Elias said nothing. He understood now why Vakar had been left to die. He wasn't just a wounded enemy. He was a secret the High Command wanted buried. Then, without warning, the cave shook. Dust fell from the ceiling, followed by the deep rumble of an explosion outside. Elias ran to the entrance and saw fire blooming across the valley. "They're bombing the area," he shouted. Vakar's voice was calm despite the chaos. "They found the drone you destroyed. They traced the blast. They will burn everything within 10 clicks. Elias cursed under his breath and grabbed his rifle. "We need to move now." He lifted the alien again, muscles screaming with effort. The ground shook beneath his feet as another explosion roared nearby. Rocks fell from above and the tunnel began to collapse behind them. Elias pushed forward, coughing through the dust. The tunnel opened into a narrow canyon, sunlight flashing through cracks in the stone. He laid Vakar down near a rock ledge, breathing hard for a moment. They both just stared at the burning horizon. The air was thick with smoke, and human ships circled above like predators. "This is madness," Elias said. "They're killing their own men to bury you." Vakar closed his eyes. "That is the price of mercy, human," he said softly. "When you choose compassion in a world built on hate, someone always pays." Elias sat beside him, sweat and dirt streaking his face. "Then let them come," he muttered. I'm done running. Vekar looked at him. You remind me of what we feared most about humans, he said. Not your strength. Not your weapons, but your refusal to give up. A sharp sound echoed through the canyon, the whine of jet engines. Elias grabbed his rifle and ducked behind a rock. A squad of human soldiers landed nearby, their armor shining white and gray. Elias's heart pounded. He could see their insignia, elite recovery unit. No prisoners, no mercy. He turned to Vekar. If they catch you, they'll tear that data crystal out of you. Vekar's voice was calm. Then destroy it. Elias hesitated. That's not who I am. The alien gave a faint, tired smile. It may be who you must become. The soldiers spread out. Scanning the area, Elias aimed carefully. The first shot took out their scanner drone. The second hit a soldier's shoulder plate. The fight erupted like thunder. Elias moved fast, darting between rocks. His every breath sharp and cold, the squad returned fire. Bullets cutting through dust and light. He took one down, then another. But the last soldier, the officer, threw a grenade. The explosion sent Elias flying, his ears ringing. He hit the ground hard. His vision blurred when he lifted his head. He saw Vekar's armor glowing brighter. The red light pulsing like a heart. What are you doing? Elias shouted, crawling toward him. Vekar looked at him one last time. Buying you time, he said. Then the armor burst with a surge of golden energy. A blinding shockwave threw the remaining soldiers off their feet. Elias shielded his eyes as the canyon filled with light. When it was over, silence returned. Only the wind moving through the dust. Elias crawled to Vekar's side. The alien's breathing was weak, almost gone. I told you, Vekar whispered, mercy. As a price, Elias gritted his teeth, tears mixing with the dust. Then I'll pay it, he said, clutching the alien's hand and far above. The ship circled, searching. But all they would find was smoke, fire, and one human soldier kneeling beside the fallen enemy. He refused to abandon. The canyon was quiet again, but it was the kind of quiet that made Elias's heart pound harder. Smoke still rose from the collapsed tunnel. Carrying the stench of burnt metal and blood, he knelt beside Vekar's motionless body, the alien's armor flickering faintly with golden sparks. Come on, stay with me, Elias whispered. Shaking him gently, the alien's chest rose in a faint breath, but his voice was barely a whisper. You should have left me. Human, Elias gave a dry laugh. Yeah, well, too late for that, he said. His hands trembled as he checked the armor. The energy pulse had burned through several layers, revealing strange silver skin underneath that shimmered like molten glass. He tore off his own vest and pressed it against the wound. You saved my life back there, so don't die on me now, Elias said. Vekar's golden eyes opened a little. You fight like a fool, he muttered weakly. But you fight with honor, Elias smirked. I'll take that as a compliment, he said far above. A sharp buzzing sound filled the air. Reconnaissance drones returning. Sweeping the valley again, Elias cursed under his breath and looked around. The canyon was open on both ends, nowhere to hide. Then he saw it. A half-buried tunnel entrance under a collapsed transport vehicle. Maybe an old escape passage. It was narrow, but big enough for them to squeeze through. Hold on, Elias said, lifting Vekar again. His muscles screamed, but he kept moving, dragging the alien into the shadows just as the drones passed overhead. Red light flashed briefly across the rocks, scanning for life signs. Inside the tunnel, it was dark and damp. The air smelled of oil and dust. Elias switched on his flickering flashlight and followed the tracks deeper. If we can reach the outpost ruins, he said quietly, there might be supplies. Maybe even a ship. Vekar's head turned slightly. You plan to steal from your own army? Elias grinned faintly. Wouldn't be the first time. As they moved deeper underground, the noise above grew fainter, replaced by the slow dripping of water and the crackling of old power lines. Elias's boots splashed through shallow puddles as he tried to keep his breath steady. After an hour of crawling through broken pipes and twisted walls, they reached a large chamber filled with wrecked machines and crates marked with faded human symbols. Elias set Vekar down carefully and began rummaging through the crates. He found energy cells, old ration packs, and, most importantly, found a small med unit. He turned to Vekar. All right, Commander. Let's see if this thing knows alien medicine, he said, activating the device. It hummed softly, scanning the alien's body. The screen flashed symbols Elias didn't understand, then displayed a warning in red. Foreign DNA, incompatible protocols, Elias groaned. Figures. He slammed the unit on the ground. It can patch up a broken tank, but not a living being. Baker's voice was calm, even as his breathing slowed. You cannot fix what is already dying, he said. Don't say that, Elias snapped. Not after what we've been through. Vakar looked at him quietly. You are strange, human soldier, he said. You cling to life as if death cannot find you. Elias sat down beside him, staring at the ground. Death's been chasing me for years, he said softly, but every time it gets close, someone else pays the price. Before Vakar could answer, a sudden tremor shook the floor. Dust fell from the ceiling and distant footsteps echoed through the tunnel. Elias's instincts flared. They weren't alone. He grabbed his rifle and turned off the flashlight. The metallic footsteps grew louder, steady, and organized. Human patrols moving in formation, Vakar whispered. They come for you? No, Elias said quietly. They come for us. The first soldier appeared in the chamber doorway, flashlight beam cutting through the dark. Elias waited until he was close, then fired once, clean, silent. Straight through the visor, the man dropped instantly. More voices shouted from behind. Contact! Contact, light him up! Gunfire erupted, sparks flying off the metal walls. Elias ducked behind a crate, returning fire. His shots were precise, but there were too many of them. Elias, Vakar called weakly. Take the crystal. Run. Not leaving you! Elias shouted back, pulling a grenade from his belt. He tossed it into the doorway. The explosion filled the chamber with fire and smoke. He turned and saw a narrow service shaft behind the machines. There, he said, grabbing the alien again. Vakar's body was heavy and limp, but Elias dragged him into the shaft, crawling upward as bullets whistled below. They emerged in another section of the tunnel system, this one older, colder, and covered in frost. Elias collapsed beside the wall, panting. They're not giving up, he said. Vakar's voice was faint. Because they cannot allow. What I know to live, Elias looked at him. Then we make sure it does. He reached into Vakar's armor and pulled out the glowing data crystal. It pulsed softly in his hand, golden light reflecting in his tired eyes. What's on this? Elias asked. Vakar smiled weakly. Everything. The truth of the war, your leader's lies, the peace bought with blood. Elias stared at the crystal, realizing its power. This wasn't just evidence, it was a weapon of truth. Outside, the sound of engines thundered again, closer this time. Elias tightened his grip on his rifle. They want a hunt? He muttered. Then they'll get one. Vakar's golden eyes met his. You cannot fight them all, Elias smirked. Watch me, he said as the soldiers stormed the tunnels. Elias planted explosives along the walls, the echoes of his steps blending with the rising hum of approaching machines. The hunt had begun, but this time, the prey was ready to bite back, and deep inside the darkness, two figures, a wounded alien and a defiant human, prepared to defy an empire built on silence. The tunnels burned behind them, echoing with the sound of collapsing stone and exploding fuel cells. Elias stumbled forward through the haze, dragging Vakar's limp body over the debris. The firelight flickered off the metal walls like the heartbeat of a dying world. They emerged at last into the open night, cold, endless, and full of wind. The valley below them glowed faintly from the distant city lights of the human command zone. Elias stopped, catching his breath, and looked back. The tunnels were gone, turned into a graveyard of smoke and dust. Still breathing? Elias asked quietly, looking down at Vakar. The alien's golden eyes fluttered open. Barely, he whispered. You destroyed their scanners. Elias nodded. Yeah, but they'll send more, he said. We need a ride out of here before sunrise. He glanced toward the cliffs and saw it, the broken silhouette of a crashed ship. Half buried in rock, it was small, maybe an old Dravari scout vessel. The hull was cracked but still intact enough to protect them. Hold on, Commander, Elias said. Looks like you're getting home the hard way. He carried Vakar toward the wreck, his boots slipping on the dust. Every step felt heavier, his back screaming in pain. But he didn't stop when he reached the ship. He pried open the half-bent door with his rifle stock and dragged the alien inside. The interior was dark, wires hanging like vines. The ship's core still hummed faintly. A pale blue light pulsed on the console, low power but functional. Elias laid Vakar on a metal bench and wiped sweat from his face. You weren't kidding when you said your people build tough, he muttered, tapping the console. Let's see if this thing still remembers how to fly. The alien turned his head weakly. The reactor may still respond, he said, But the guidance system was damaged, Elias smirked. Lucky for you, I used to pilot scrap haulers before the army. I can make a rock fly if it has an engine. He pressed a few buttons. The control panel flickered to life. A soft alien voice spoke through static. The screen showed critical system warnings in symbols he couldn't read. Vakar coughed, his voice dry. There is one more thing, he said slowly. The flight key. In my armor. Near my spine. Elias hesitated, then reached carefully into the damaged section of the armor. His hand touched something cold, a crystal shard. Glowing faint blue, he pulled it out and slotted it into the console. The ship responded instantly, lights turning green. The hum of the core deepened into a steady rhythm. There we go, Elias whispered. She's alive. But then a distant explosion thundered in the night. Elias looked out through the cracked hull and saw flares in the sky, human gunships sweeping the valley. Their searchlights crossed the ground like blades of white fire. They found us, Elias muttered. We have maybe 10 minutes. He turned back to the console, frantically activating thrusters. Come on, girl, wake up, he said. The engines coughed, then roared weakly. Dust swirled around the ship. Vakar's breathing grew heavier. If we take off, they will shoot us down. Elias glanced at him. Then we fly higher than they expect, he said. You cannot win this, Vakar murmured. Elias tightened his grip on the controls. It's not about winning, he said. It's about keeping a promise. He started the ignition, and the ship trembled. The ground shook as the engines came alive. Flames burst from the exhaust ports, the entire hull screamed under the pressure. The first missile hit the rocks beside them, throwing dust and fire into the air. Elias cursed and pulled the throttle. The ship lifted, wobbling through the storm of light. Bullets ricocheted off the armor. Sparks raining inside the cabin. Hold together, come on, he shouted. The second missile exploded behind them, tearing off a piece of the tail. The ship spun, alarm screaming. Elias fought the controls, sweat running down his face. Vakar opened his eyes. Glowing faintly gold, you are insane, human? Elias grinned through the chaos. You're just figuring that out now? He stabilized the ship, flying low between canyons to avoid radar. The night sky stretched above, dark, vast, filled with stars. Vakar's voice came again, softer now. You fight without orders, without reason. Only with heart? Elias's tone grew serious. Reason doesn't save lives, he said. Heart does. Suddenly, the console flashed red, engine overheat. Elias slammed his fist on the controls. No, not now, he growled. Vakar's eyes widened faintly. There is a coolant line beneath your seat. Elias ripped open the floor panel and twisted a valve. The engine hissed and steadied, but another warning appeared. Low fuel. We're not going to make it to orbit, Elias said. We'll have to glide to the ridge. He looked at Vakar, whose light was fading. Stay with me, you hear? The alien tried to smile. You humans are impossible, he whispered. Elias leaned closer, gripping his shoulder. Listen, Vakar, I swore to get you home, and I keep my promises. No matter what, the alien's hand twitched, his claws resting weakly on Elias's arm. Then, we go together. The ship screamed through the night. Breaking through the last layer of clouds, the human gunships fell behind. Unable to follow through the radiation storm that shimmered over the mountains, lightning flashed around them, blue and white. The sky tore open with wind. The ship shuddered, but Elias held on. We're almost there, he shouted. The controls sparked, the hull cracked, and the stars ahead grew brighter. Like a gate opening, Vakar's last words drifted through the noise. You fight. Like one of us. Then the engines exploded in light. The ship burst through the storm and vanished into the clouds, leaving nothing behind but fire in the sky. When the smoke cleared, only silence remained, and far below the soldiers looked up, unable to tell whether the ship had fallen or escaped. But somewhere above the storm, a promise still burned, a human's vow echoing across the stars, refusing to die. The ship spun through the storm like a dying bird, lightning clawing across the hull. The engines coughed, then screamed, sparks dancing over the controls. Elias gritted his teeth and yanked the throttle, smoke filling the cabin. The stars outside flickered between clouds, and below them the planet's surface glowed faintly, a wasteland of black glass and ash. Hold together, come on, Elias muttered, slamming the side console. Just give me 5 more minutes. Vakar lay against the wall. His armor cracked open, golden light leaking through the gaps. He was fading fast, but his eyes still burned faintly. "You cannot fly through this storm," he whispered. "It feeds on radiation." "On energy," Elias glanced at him, sweat running down his face. "Then we'll starve it," he said. "I'll cut the main reactor." Vakar's eyes widened slightly. "You do that and we fall." Elias's voice was steady. "Better to fall together than burn apart." He slammed his hand on the emergency override. The hum of the reactor died instantly. The ship went silent, the engines fading, the lights dimming. Only the faint flicker of the storm outside remained. For a moment there was peace. The world outside seemed to slow, and the weightless silence wrapped around them like a cocoon. Elias looked out the window. Lightning streaked around the ship but never struck it again. "See?" he whispered. "Sometimes you just need to stop fighting." Vakar gave a faint laugh, broken but real. "Human. You are either a fool or a legend." Elias smiled slightly. "Maybe both." The silence didn't last long. The ship began to drop, nose tilting downward, gravity returning with a roar. Elias grabbed the control stick, trying to guide the descent. But the panels were dead. The ship shuddered, spiraling toward the wasteland below. Vakar's voice came again, weak but sharp. "There is one way." "Talk to me," Elias said, his knuckles white on the controls. "The neural link," Vakar whispered. "Connect my mind to the ship." "I can guide it." Elias hesitated. "That thing was made for your kind, and it could fry my brain." Vakar's golden eyes met his. "Or save your life," he said simply without another word. Elias reached for the interface cable. It glowed faint blue, trembling with energy. He pressed it against the port at the back of Vakar's neck. The alien gasped, then nodded. "Now." The other end, Elias found a cracked terminal near the pilot seat. He jammed the connector in place, and the ship's systems flared to life again, but not with the cold light of machines. Instead, golden lines spread across the walls like veins. Pulsing with a heartbeat, Elias's vision blurred, and suddenly he wasn't alone. He could feel Vakar's presence in his mind, deep, ancient and full of pain. Their thoughts overlapped, flashes of memory pouring between them like floodwater. He saw Vakar as a young warrior, standing beneath twin suns, armor gleaming. He saw alien soldiers saluting him, their voices united in pride. Then he saw fire, cities burning, screams. The moment the humans landed and the war began, and through it all, Vakar saw Elias's life too. A small boy fixing a broken ship in a scrapyard, a soldier kneeling beside his dying commander, a man choosing mercy over hate. Their minds merged completely, and the ship responded, stabilizing mid-fall. The engines roared again, golden instead of blue. Guided by thought, not fuel, Elias shouted over the noise, "You're doing it!" "No," Vakar said, his voice echoing in both their minds. "We are doing it." The storm parted as the ship soared upward. Piercing through clouds, stars spilled into view, bright and endless, but then alarms flared again. The power core was reaching overload. The neural link was drawing too much energy. Elias felt his head spin, pain stabbing behind his eyes. "Vakar! We're burning too fast." "I know," Vakar said, his tone calm now. "It is the only way." Elias realized what he meant. "Don't you dare." Vakar smiled faintly in his mind. "You gave me mercy, human. Now I return it." The alien's body glowed brighter, light searing through the cracks in his armor. His essence flowed through the link, stabilizing the ship completely. "No," Elias shouted. "Stop. You'll die." Vakar's voice was soft, fading. "My body was already gone. But my will remains. Take this ship. Take the truth. Show them who we were." The light grew so bright that Elias had to cover his eyes. When it faded, Vakar's body was still, empty armor lying on the floor. But the ship continued to fly, smooth, steady glowing gold beneath his hands. Tears burned down Elias's cheeks. He looked out the viewport. Ahead lay the Dravari homeworld. Faint and blue on the horizon, he whispered. "You got us home." "Commander?" The comm crackled suddenly, human frequencies. "Unidentified vessel, you are entering restricted space. Identify yourself or be destroyed." Elias took a deep breath, his voice steady but filled with something new. Purpose. "This is Elias Kane, human infantry, transmitting peace codes." There was a long pause. Then a cold voice replied, "Those codes are obsolete, soldier. Stand down or—" Before they could finish, Elias flipped the transmission to open frequency. broadcasting Vikar's data crystal to every channel. "Let the galaxy hear the truth," he whispered. On the screens, the recordings played and the secret deals, the surrender orders, the voices of generals selling peace for power. It spread like wildfire across every network, unstoppable. Human and alien fleets both went silent as the truth burned through their lies. Elias leaned back, exhausted, watching the stars. "We did it." "Vakar," he murmured. Outside, the ship glowed brighter, a streak of gold cutting across the dark sky, carrying a human's promise and an alien's final gift. The last flight of Elias Kane had begun, and neither race would ever see war the same way again. The sky above the Dravari homeworld shimmered with dawn, twin suns rising over the endless plains of silver grass. A quiet wind swept across the alien soil. The same soil that had once been scorched by fire. Now it glowed softly, like the world itself was taking its first breath in years. The golden ship drifted down through clouds of mist, its hull scarred and cracked, trailing smoke that shimmered in the sunlight. Inside, Elias Kane stirred awake, his head pounded, and his hands trembled against the controls. The neural link was gone, silent, empty. The seat beside him was cold. Vakar's armor lay folded like a shell, the light within it extinguished. "Guess you weren't kidding about the hard landing," Elias muttered, his voice hoarse. He looked through the shattered window. Alien towers glittered in the distance, their spires like crystal spears reaching for the sun. This was it, the Dravari homeworld, the place Vakar had dreamed of returning to. As the ship touched down on a deserted landing plane, Elias exhaled slowly. The engines died with a long sigh. He unbuckled himself and stood, his body aching. He looked at the armor one last time, his voice soft. "We made it, Commander." When he stepped outside, the air was strange, sweet, cold, and humming with energy. The ground beneath his boots shimmered faintly, the minerals alive with bioluminescent light. He could hear distant sirens, Dravari patrols moving toward the crash site. He didn't reach for his weapon. He just raised his hands, waiting. The first patrol arrived, 6 Dravari soldiers in shining silver armor. Their weapons aimed, one of them shouted, "Human! Identify yourself." Elias stood tall. "Elias Kane, Earth Infantry," he said. "I came here with Commander Vakar of the 9th Dravari Fleet." At the sound of that name, the soldiers froze. One of them, a tall female with deep blue markings on her face, stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Vakar? That name is forbidden. He was declared dead at the war's end." Elias took the data crystal from his vest, holding it up so it caught the sunlight. "He's dead," Elias said quietly, "but not forgotten. He gave his life to bring this." The crystal pulsed gold, and a faint holographic image flickered above it, Vakar's last message. Recorded in his final moments, his voice filled the air. "Deep and calm to my people," it said. "And to the humans who will hear this, the war was not your enemy, lies were. Let this truth end what hatred began." The soldiers lowered their weapons slowly, eyes wide. Some bowed their heads. Others looked at Elias with awe. "He lives through you," the female soldier said softly. Elias nodded, his throat tight. "He saved me, and maybe he saved all of us." The Dravari led him through shining corridors into their city. Crowds gathered as they passed, whispering in disbelief. A human walking among them, carrying the legacy of a legend. At the heart of the city stood a great hall made of living crystal inside. Murals carved into the walls told the story of their people. Triumph, loss, and rebirth. Elias followed the soldiers until they stopped before a vast memorial chamber. At the center stood a statue, Vakar, tall and proud, his blade raised to the stars. Elias stared at it, unable to speak. It was strange seeing the alien immortalized in stone, yet so real in his memories. The female soldier stepped forward and pressed her hand to the statue's base. "We will record this in our archives," she said. "The human who carried the last commander home." Elias placed the data crystal at the statue's feet, and as it touched the stone, the whole chamber lit up with golden light. The holograms replayed scenes of the war, Vakar's final flight and his words of peace. The Dravari bowed their heads in silence, and Elias whispered, "You made it home, my friend." A young Dravari child stepped forward from the crowd, her eyes glowing softly. She looked up at Elias and asked, "Human, were you afraid of him?" Elias smiled faintly. "At first," he said, But then I realized he was just like us, tired of fighting, tired of losing. The child tilted her head. Then why did you save him? Elias looked at the statue, remembering that broken battlefield, the faint metallic breath under the rubble. Because he was alone, he said, and no one deserves to die alone. The hall fell quiet again. Only the hum of the crystal lights filled the air. Later they offered him a place among their kind. A home in the rebuilt city. Elias refused politely. My war's over, he said, but I'll carry his story wherever I go. Before he left, the Dravari high priestess handed him a medallion, half human steel, half Dravari crystal fused together. For peace, she said. For those who remember. Elias took it and placed it around his neck. I'll make sure they do, he replied. He walked back to the old ship, now resting beneath the twin suns. The wind carried voices, whispers of gratitude, of change, of hope. He looked up at the sky, where the stars shimmered like 1,000 silent witnesses. Rest easy, Commander, he said softly. Your war is over. As he climbed into the cockpit, the ship's systems flickered one last time. A faint golden light glowed across the dashboard. Not mechanical, not digital, familiar, warm. Vakar's voice echoed faintly in his mind. You kept your promise. Human, Elias smiled, eyes glistening. Yeah, I did, he whispered. The engines came to life. Smooth and calm, the ship rose slowly. Lifting above the silver plains below, the Dravari watched, saluting the man who had brought their fallen warrior home. Above, the twin suns broke through the clouds, and the golden ship vanished into the sky for generations to come. Both human and Dravari would tell the same story, of the soldier who refused to hate, who carried an enemy home, and who proved that mercy was humanity's greatest weapon. The war had ended in silence, but the legend of Elias Kane and Commander Vakar would echo forever, carried by the wind across the stars.